In order for us to call a book scientifically accurate, it does have to be in line with modern scientific principles. Science or methodological naturalism is a process of investigation of the natural world. There are multiple scientific methods, but they all follow a basic pattern of observation, research, hypothesis testing, analysis, and reporting. The Quran does not follow this procedure and does not falsify, test, or have any kind of scientific reporting mechanism in which to justify their beliefs as scientific or show any methodology that would fit this criteria. What's worse is that many of the claims in the Quran rely on dogma, which is completely antithetical to the scientific methodologies. The book on the screen is an example of a scientifically accurate textbook. However, it's important to realize that it's a 5th edition of the book, which is a hallmark of a scientifically accurate books. They update when the scientific understanding is developed. So the question comes up, why do Muslims like Nadir want the Quran to be a science book? Science books are incredible under scrutiny to be both accurate and valid in substance and methodology, which obviously the proponents of the Quran do not wish to be under. It has to be updated to the current scientific understanding, which Muslims do not want to do. The reason is because they want to steal credibility for the religion of Islam from the bowl of science, trying to associate themselves with the scientific methods. This is a flawed effort and will only serve to undermine the credibility of their own book.
But from a scientific point of view, it's perfectly fine if you want to believe in gods, goddesses, heaven or hell. They don't take a stand on that, okay? So we have to make the distinction between what is atheist quackology and what is modern science. They have a, and don't confuse the two. So
maybe you should give your definition of science and what is scientific.
Okay, I will give you the Cambridge definition. You know, it says over here, something which relates to science. Simple. Something which relates to science, that's scientific. But
this isn't like miracles and gods and stuff aren't just unscientific to atheists and stuff like that. They're unscientific to theist scientists as well, and all theist scientists. Like, we understand what science is. And it's also unscientific according to his own definition, because he said science is that which the scientific community agrees on.
Simple. Something which relates to science, that's scientific.
And they agree that gods and miracles and demons and devils are unscientific. We don't investigate those with science. They're unscientific because science is methodological naturalism.
Beyond the reach of the scientific method. It's beyond the reach. So when you talk about lamps being hurled at devils or things like that, it's beyond the reach of the scientific method. Science cannot prove or disprove or refute the existence of God or any supernatural entity.
That's the whole point that Nadir seems to keep missing again and again and again. If something is not investigated by science, it is unscientific. Just scientific miracles has absolutely no meaning. It's an oxymoron because, as Nadir pointed out in his screen share, the science does not deal with gods and miracles. So for him to say a scientific miracle is just a nonsense proposition. It's an oxymoron. It's a contradiction in terms already. This whole thing about him saying, oh, well, sometimes it says lamps, sometimes it says this. How is it then scientifically accurate? It can't be. If it says it's lamps in one place and then it says it's sort of missiles in another place, or says it's stars in another place, then it isn't scientifically accurate. It isn't accurate at all. Nadir seems to believe that maybe some poetic or flowering language is no problem in the Quran. It's whatever your poetic interpretation is. Well, a proper scientifically accurate book will have zero poetry. There's no biology book where you get a haiku on the position of frogs in the ecosystem halfway through, Nadir. There's no sonnet about the pollination of flowers in your biology book, because it is a scientifically accurate book. So I realize that the Quran partly is poetry. It is this hyperbolic language. I realize that. But that's one of the reasons why it is an unscientific book, because you don't put poetry in a science book.
Simple. Something which relates to science, that's scientific.